that there was a revolution going on between the capitalists and the socialists, and my people were abandoning me and leaving in spaceships.
Conversations with Indie Authors.
Welcome back to the Zarlequan Indie-Verse, where we explore incredible journeys of indie authors. I'm your host, Brittani Starr, and today we have a remarkable guest, Ruth Poniarski, who is not only an author, but also an artist. Her story is as unique as her artwork, with a background in architecture, a dive into fine art, and a captivating memoir titled Journey of the Self. It's a tale of struggle, resilience, and self-discovery, and we're excited to unravel it here today. So without further ado, please welcome Ruth Poniarski to the show.
Thank you for having me.
Well, Ruth, can you share a bit about this transition from architecture to fine art and what inspired this shift?
I started in college 1977, which is when the memoir Journey of the Self takes place, between 1977 and 1987. And at that time, I was enrolled in an architecture program at a college in northern New York. I returned on my fourth year from a break. My boyfriend did not return. So I was alone. He was really my buddy there, and I was really isolated. So I befriended this other gentleman, an older gentleman who had already graduated from the architecture program. And I went home for Thanksgiving, and then I came back, and he had a little party. At the party, it was a small party. I hadn't eaten the whole party, and I was talking and conversing with a lot of students. It was a small party with students. Then at the end of the party, when everybody left, I stayed behind along with his roommate, and he offered me a brownie cake that was laced with PCP, angel dust. I just hallucinated. My mind was spinning. And then I sat down for about an hour, and then I returned to my car. I left and returned to my car. I drove aimlessly all over, finally reaching the New York State Thruway, imagining and paranoid that there was a revolution going on between the capitalists and the socialists, and my people were abandoning me and leaving in spaceships, and I was left to an apocalyptic world. I abandoned my car on the shoulder of the highway, walked about 12 miles on the shoulder of the highway until dawn. Then when the sun rose, reality hit me for a minute, and I hitched a ride all the way back to the college town where my apartment was located. My frazzled father was there, my roommates were there, and this manipulative male friend who drugged me was there with his roommate. I didn't really register anybody. My father and I left the college town. I had to abort my architecture program and left for home on Long Island. That was my first visit with a psychiatrist. That was the first breakdown of many breakdowns. The angel dust triggered death-defying episodes that I would have for a 7-year period. Every time I would have a breakdown, there were patterns and symptoms that I would go through before I would break down. And those symptoms were insomnia, anxiety, irrational thinking, paranoia, and very low self-esteem, which was compounded by getting sick every 6 months to a year. That's when I would cycle. And there were other, of course, death-defying episodes. One was when I went 7 days without sleep, and I traveled to Greece and Athens, and I was on a touring in Athens, and it was very stressful. I was the only American on the tour. After 7 days without sleep, and when I returned to Athens, I walked Athens from 12 to dawn aimlessly. And that was without sleep. my mind just, I imagined again apocalyptic world, and I just left and roamed the Athens. A soldier picked me up, and he walked with me throughout the night. Thank goodness he saved my life. I got on the plane back to New York. I had a psychotic episode on the plane. And when I landed, I was arrested by the transportation police because I had slapped a man on the plane. I thought he was talking about me and ridiculing me. And at the police, my father again was summoned. He picked me up and we went to the psychiatrist. It just went over and over again. I would have these breakdowns. And finally, it culminated in a very, very tragic accident. The following day, which happened to be Halloween, Wednesday, a week of not sleeping, I was in my apartment and I was thinking that my neighbors were going to persecute me. So I couldn't go out the front door of my apartment fearing that I was going to be killed. So I tied flannel bed sheets together, forming a rope. I wanted to rappel down the wall through the window using the rope. Well, when I went out the window, the force of gravity was immense. So it was like a dead weight, an iron chain's pulling me down. In seconds, I planned my fall. I fell on my feet and rolled to my side so I don't hit my head on the pavement. Well, I don't remember the fall. I blacked out. 30 feet I fell. I blacked out. I woke up in the emergency room of the local hospital. From then on, my life really changed. 2 months in the hospital, 6 months in a wheelchair, and then I got up and I walked. Miracle. During that time, about in January, I would say February of 1985 now, I found the right doctor. And he included my parents in therapy once a month, whereas the other doctor excluded me from my parents. And my life took a change. The nervous breakdowns became more spaced apart. Instead of every 6 months to a year, they became every maybe year and then 2 years, and then it was spaced 3 to 4 years. And then it eventually petered out. In 1988, which was 3 years after the care of this doctor, he suggested to me, why don't you take up art, painting? And in 1988, I took up painting. I left behind the architecture world. I left behind struggling in construction jobs. I left behind the political hardships in working in a firm in a male-dominated world at that time, and I commenced painting. Henceforth, for about over 30 years now, I have been painting. 1995, I developed poetry to each painting. And then in 2010, I started writing my memoir, which developed my writing a long book. And that was published in 2020. So henceforth, that book is out now. In 1999, I was prescribed an antipsychotic medicine, which really helped me because I had still been having episodes further apart, but the medicines that were available in the 1990s and 2000s were much more and varied than in 1977. So that really made a very, very big difference. So I was on this antipsychotic, and then a couple of years later, the right dosage was established. And then my last break was in 2010, and I have been break-free since. So that's a miracle.
Congratulations.
Thank you. So that's the moral, the message of this story is never give up. You never give up. All through my episodes, in between episodes, I pursued my architecture degree. I worked in the field, not successfully, but I held jobs. I was searching for Mr. Right. I was on an endless search for Mr. Right. I had many friends, acquaintances. But I really, during the first 7 years with this wrong doctor, I really didn't have a connection to these people. They were more acquaintances because I had led a double life, breaking down every 6 months to a year, and then my life between the episodes, which I just described to you. So again, so when I had reached George, I was able to establish deeper relationships and a better support system, because up until then, my life was really secretive. These breakdowns were secretive. I did not share them with anyone. The most important thing is to learn your limitations. And after all that, you have to learn to accept yourself. That's a whole big issue, to accept yourself.
Ruth, can you talk to us about how your art has helped your mental health?
Oh, yes. So my mind is a very creative web. So in 1988, when I started painting, I started very small, and I was able to focus my imagination and focus my creative energy, which was frustrated with architecture, into the painting and the painting process. My process is interesting. My paintings are surreal narratives. They tell stories. I'm able to focus my imagination, as I said, and focus my energy, because I have a lot of energy, manic energy. It's all focused in painting, all focused on developing an idea, all focusing each painting from painting to painting. My imagination wasn't channeled, just was not channeled. And I was able to channel it and focus and develop a discipline. And that really helped me move on.
So our last question is, do you have any new projects coming out?
I'm working on a painting. I develop the stories and the allegories as I go. Since 2010, when I developed my writing and I wrote my memoir, I took that further, and I'm developed writing a fiction novel. So right now I'm working on a fiction novel, editing it. It has a sequel to it. So it's a 2-part. And then I have an idea for another book, a fiction book.
I want to thank you for joining us today. It was really exciting to get to know you.
Thank you for having me. I enjoyed.
Ruth's journey is nothing short of inspiring. Her book, Journey of the Self, is a testament to her strength and determination. We look forward to seeing more of her artistic and literary creations in the future. Stay tuned for more captivating conversations with indie authors. Until next time, stay magical, my friends.
The Zarlequan Indie-Verse.